Okay. Khalid and Noura, thank you again for joining me. You're joining from somewhere near just north of Ramallah. And I want to start by talking about the vision for El-Funoun, which translates in English to the arts. Is that correct?
The name of El-Funoun?
Yeah.
Yes, it means the arts.
Which is very appropriate because you guys aren't just a dance company. You make music, you make recordings, you do readings, you basically run a school that teaches dance in Palestine and abroad. Has this mixture of different art forms always been at the heart of El-Funoun from the start?
لا يعني كبداية بال 79 لما تأسست الفرقة ب 79 كانت الهدف منها هي المحافظة على التراث بالأساس.
And so in the beginning, when El-Funoun was established in 1979, it was the main aim, first of all, was to preserve the Palestinian cultural identity or folklore.
لأن عمليا يعني كان كثير شيء إحساس عند جزء كبير من اللي بيهتموا بالثقافة والفن إنه نتيجة التهجير اللي صار في 48 الناس رح تخسر جزء من تواصلها مع الأرض ومع البلد ومع ثقافتها.
So so when it started, there were several other than El-Funoun, but El-Funoun was one of this movement that wanted to connect back to the land and to the heritage. And this is where El-Funoun started and began its journey. In this reminder for people after the Nakba in 1948 happened, and after so many years that so people will not forget and people will come back and remember and connect to the land and to their heritage.
بعد هيك عمليا الفرقة يعني بالإضافة لموضوع المحافظة على التراث صارت كمان هي يعني تحط طريقها الخاصة فيها بالتعامل مع الفلكلور ومع الفن ومع الرقص.
So after that, El-Funoun, as the El-Funoun grew, it wasn't only about preserving the culture, but also to look into how creativity and dance and the art can actually develop.
And let's talk about that because one of the things that I appreciate about El-Funoun is that you're both preserving and developing or expanding Palestinian culture. And your mission has changed from preservation to, again, establishing a contemporary Palestinian identity. Noura, you have said in the past that, quote, in the diaspora, there is more of a need to preserve culture and freeze it in time. Whereas living in our culture every day in Palestine, we want it to evolve. My question for you, for both of you, you know, that is true for diaspora in general, that, I'm from Nigeria and Africa, for example. The Nigerians in Canada are more traditional than the Nigerians in Nigeria to a certain degree. So that I understand what you mean by that. But with the ongoing genocide in Gaza, do you find that there's more of an incentive to defend Palestinian traditions? Or are you more motivated now than ever to push it to evolve into the future?
Yeah, but also it's not preserving. I use maybe also the wrong word. We revive the folklore and culture.
بدك تجاوبوني بجاوب فهمت السؤال.
So with both ends. I think there is a tendency when you're away from your homeland and when culture is being appropriated, being stolen, threatened, that you want to keep it as is, as you remember, because you are isolated from the homeland. You are not in continuous connection with the actual land and heritage. While when you're here in Palestine, you feel not the need to keep it as is, but to keep it alive, because culture without being alive also can die. And this is very dangerous when it comes to the Palestinian cause, which is being as human beings, we are threatened for our existence. It's not, it's a survival mechanism. There's a genocide happening. We are every day being under attack. So what we need to do is not preserve only, it's to keep it alive. And keeping it alive can have different meanings, can be being inspired by this heritage, taking it as is, developing it for people to feel connected as well to how they are right now in the contemporary world, in the day we live. So how can we use this knowledge and this background and this heritage from many, many years and this is the art, I think, the role of art, to reuse it again in a way where people feel close to it and feel that it's their own as well, that it's not something that they're distant from.
ما هو يعني النقطة الأساسية إنه يعني الناس اللي تهاجروا في 48 خارج فلسطين وقفت الحياة معهم لها علاقة بالثقافة والفن هناك، فعمليا منطقيا بحبوا يشوفوا التراث والثقافة كيف كانت، لأن هم ما عاشوا بفلسطين، لأنه كمان اللي عاش في فلسطين الحياة تطورت بما فيها الثقافة والفن والتراث كله تطور، فاللي بيعيش في فلسطين بيقدر يعني بكون طبيعي التطور عم بيصير على الشيء الأدائي ولا الرقص ولا الإبداع الفني. اللي خرج من فلسطين بيحاول يحافظ وكأنه على الشيء اللي كان يعرفه، فهم يعني فنتين صح، بس يعني في كل موقع بينتج الفن اللي بيعبر عنه أو بيحاول يحافظ على شخصيته فيه.
So Khaled is saying that the two ways are correct in a way, whether you're in the diaspora or living in Palestine, or for instance, you in Nigeria or outside. It's an experience. So the people that were exiled in the diaspora, refugees outside of Palestine, to them, time stopped at that moment in their relationship with Palestine. So what they have experienced in terms of culture and identity and heritage has been to that point, 1948 or 1967 or 1970s or 80s, whenever they were expelled or left. And this is where they can hold on to and use. And it's necessary as well when they're in the diaspora, because if they were in Palestine, they would experience a development. So as El-Funoun would perform, culture here changes in the actual weddings and in day-to-day life, things are changing, but they're not part of this. So while here, the actual culture is changing and developing, it changes with how also the art form changes. So there's two different views, but it's about experience. It's not about what's right or wrong. And each one wants to defend. And that's the good thing, I'd say. They're both defending culture. They're both defending this identity that's being threatened.
I want to talk about your mission, especially when it comes to dance. I don't know who said it, but someone in your organization in one of your videos said, dance was our passport into the hearts of our people, where we danced for freedom, for equality among all people, men and women, rich and poor. We danced for our land, for rain and for harvest. What is it about dance to you, and specifically about dabke, which is the traditional Palestinian dance, that makes it such a powerful tool of resistance and cultivation?
نعم. So dabka as a tool, it's part of the culture, and it's very much connected to the body, and the body is a very sacred thing that we use. The genocide is happening to the people. The land is nothing without the people. So for us, dance and embodying it in this tool, which is dabka, is a very powerful statement. It's talking about existence. It's talking about connecting to our past. And dabka, it is said that it started as a ritual for people when they wanted to come together to stomp on the land to create their homes from the soil, and they would come together and create it. So there is this history, there is this tool. So when we talk about that and we bring it to life, this is something that can, one, bring people together. And El-Funoun is about group work, coming together as a community, feeling that you can connect, produce, be active and proactive in what we believe in, which is ultimately the liberation of Palestine. And one thing that the world and the occupation is trying to do is to break us apart. So when you talk about Dabka as a tool, it's a tool to bring people together. And it's not only Palestinians, it's bringing us together to talk about. And this is the power. It's the power of Dabka. And Dabka is a very powerful also dance. It can be, it has a lot of energy, movement. It can express with the music and without any subject that you want. And we usually have something that we want to say. And it's used for us to, as I said, bring people together. So we have over 300 members who are volunteers. So you're there for the purpose of El-Funoun, and it's not only for the monetary value of being a dancer. And two, it's there for the people. So you take this music, this dance, and everybody can, in Palestine and outside of Palestine, use El-Funoun dance. You can see many groups using our music and our steps. And this is something that we're very passionate about, and how we can communicate this kind of ethos for around art, that it's not connected to a person, to a name, to a credit, to a brand, let's say, or a company. It's for everybody. It's for the people. So this is the power of that. Okay? When it's used in this way, I think this is what it can communicate. And you can see now in the in recent years, in the demonstrations, people went back to what? Dancing Dabka. Music, El-Funoun's music has been everywhere in the streets, because the Palestinian issue has not ended. It has actually become a very important part of the world's conscience. So Dabka, this is where we can see it, proves over and over how strong it is.
Daddy, I want to
Yeah.
add something. الإشي كمان مهم إنه الدبكة قبل 48 تبدأ تفكر بالفرح، بالعرس، بالحصاد، لكن بعد 48 صار دور آخر، انضاف، ضل العرس حاضر، ضل السهر حاضر، ضل الحصاد حاضر إلى آخره، لكن كمان صارت هي أحد أدوات المقاومة لتثبيت الهوية الفلسطينية أو الناس بوجودهم بفلسطين، لأن دائما الدبكة هي جزء من التراث ما بيصير خلال عشرات سنين، بده مئات السنين. وهون في تأكيد إنه التراث الفلسطيني عمره آلاف السنين، هو كنوع من التأكيد على أحقية فلسطين بهاي الأرض.
So credit is also adding that prior to 1948, Dabka was just a dance in weddings or in harvest, in celebration. But after that, it started developing into an art form and a tool for resistance, because it is to say that this type of dance, this type of folklore folklore does not evolve over tens of years, thousands of years that the Dabka has evolved. So if it's just saying as a statement that we do exist, we have existed for thousands of years in this land, and we do have the right to this land as Palestinians. So this is where resistance comes, and the role of Dabka has transformed into people's resistance through Dabka to say that this is our identity.
Another aspect is this idea of soft power, and it might be difficult to translate, but I'll try to describe it first. In politics, especially global affairs, soft power is in opposition to hard power. So hard power is like military might and financial strength, et cetera, et cetera. But culture can sometimes be more powerful than hard power, than the military. One of the things that your occupier has done really well over the last 50 years is they have created their soft power machine, especially in relation to the US, so such that so many politicians and people in the US support Israel on an almost emotional level. One of the things that we've seen recently is that the international community is starting to discover Palestinian culture, and Palestinian soft power is beginning to accumulate or become potent, become strong. How do you see art, especially the work that you're doing with El-Funoun, is able to contribute to the expansion of Palestinian soft power in a way that in the future you can use it to establish your own state and stature in the world? Please let me know if you want me to repeat any of that.
هو عمليا يعني تيجي من تعريف للفن. بالعادة يعني أي شعب من الشعوب ما بيقصوا بقوته عسكرية وشو عنده أسلحة وقديش دمر وقديش قتل، بيقصوها شو عنده ثقافة وفن. عمليا كفلسطينيين ما يطلق عليه النضال الناعم هذا، هو في مكان معين بيدحض الرواية الصهيونية باتجاه إنه هاي الأرض اللي فيها ناس متوحشين وأكلين لحوم بشر، وأرض ما كانش فيها ناس بدنا نفكر فيها. يعني قصدي لما يكون في إنتاج ثقافي وفني هذا بلامس وبنتحط كل النظرية أصلا الصهيونية باتجاه عدم وجود ناس بهاي الأرض.
So the most important thing is the power of this soft art that it's actually more relevant now than ever, is to it shows that the people, like the power of a country is not by the military, how much they kill. It's really about the culture and the knowledge of this country and what it produces. So it's very important for art to produce and to create and to share this art, because it basically negates the narratives of the occupier in the ownership of this land and the power that they have as oppressors everywhere in the world. We're talking about this kind of relationship between oppressed and oppressor. So the oppressor has the power of the military and the killing, while the oppressed have the power of the soft power, which is the culture, the education of the actual meaning.
بالعادة يعني العدالة والحقوق ما بتيجي مثل القوة. يعني القوة العسكرية ماشي قوة عسكرية قمعية، بس هي ما عمرها بتجيب لا حقوق ولا عمرها بتجيب عدالة. بينما الجوانب الأخرى الثقافية والمعرفية هي اللي ممكن تأكد على الحقوق وعلى العدالة.
So soft power can it's very and important. So soft power. So the military power is very strong. Yes, in terms of how much they can fight. However, it does not protect. It does not give us justice or rights. Okay, but culture and soft power can bring us to justice, can bring us to our rights and talk about these rights. One thing I just want to say is the occupation is not 50 years of Palestine. So from 1948. So.
Yes, I'm saying more so that your occupiers' ability to cultivate their soft power in the global stage, especially with the US, has really kicked off over the last 50 years, but certainly goes back further than that.
So just to add on what Khaled was saying, I think what's happening in the world, there's polarization in terms of countries wanting to use their military, and the killing and the violence is going to the extreme, as we can see it. However, on the other side, you have people and communities and that are actually recognizing through culture, through art, culture and the people themselves, that the narrative is not that what they have been told. And that this is how El-Funoun, through its music, not necessarily in physically being abroad, but can reach in its videos, in its programs as well. So we can later on talk about different programs that we've also gone into in North America, for instance, and how we can also translate our school of thought to and reach, not necessarily with 40 people on stage, for instance. Because we believe that on the international level, now people are more aware, and we need to also take steps towards being there and communicating.
And in terms of taking steps to be there, one of the things that you're looking to do is to tour again. You've toured extensively in the past, over the last 20 to 30 years, perhaps even longer. But recently, you've also been doing workshops in the United States for adults, children, artists, Palestinians, but also non-Palestinians, teaching them dabke and Palestinian dancing in general. What I'm curious is, how will these workshops and your potential tour in the United States be complicated by the current American government's inhumane attitudes towards Palestine? Or are you worried at all about what might happen if you go to the States?
بس يعني بدك يدخلوا كل شغل الاستضافة دائما نشتغل عشان نحقق أهدافنا بغض النظر عن الظروف الأخرى اللي ممكن تكون من نوع إلى
So, just to talk about as El-Funoun from the beginning, from when we were established until today, El-Funoun is one thing: never stop, always continue. We do not stop. You just continue producing, continue working, continue planning, while you're aware that there are always obstacles. So I understand how, for the American people, the US feel that this is like a catastrophe. For us, it's one more obstacle. It was always there. It was not as visible. Now it's just straightforward. So we continue. We're actually expanding more. Because what we do is we do Palestinian dance, and we connect people together, and we celebrate together, and we haven't changed, and we will not. We will continue. So for us, yeah, okay. So they might refuse visas. They might stop something. Yeah, we'll just have a plan B and C and D, and we will come again, and we'll try again. Well, the world is big, and people want to connect as well. So we have, hopefully in 2025 in the East Coast, some workshops, and we're also small performances in October. We will have. And hopefully we will perform our big performances. Our biggest obstacle, and we have not biggest, one of the obstacles, let's say, that we have also faced, but it's not related to the change of American politics, but world politics, is the conditional funding. And we have never received any conditional funding, politically conditional funding, but we have also clearly made a stance against it. That's our voice cannot be bought. And from there, this is connected to our programs as well.
Can you talk a bit about what those conditions typically are? So when someone wants to give you funding, what sorts of conditions are they expecting?
It's not when someone wants to give us funding. And if I speak about when we have our own plans and it overlaps with any party that can cover this fund, we work with, unless they have certain conditions. Anything that is conditioned politically, we don't accept. We don't even approach. at all. But let's talk. I mean, Khaled knows more even about the condition itself to explain it more. نحكي عن إيش
يعني النقطة الأساسية من سنة 2020 كل الدول الأوروبية طبعا أمريكا سابقا حط شرط إنه أي حدا بياخذ تمويل من هاي المؤسسات لازم يدين النضال الفلسطيني بكل أشكاله. كل المؤسسات الثقافية والفنية بالأساس وكثير من المجتمع الأهلي الفلسطيني برفض إنه يدين هذا، لأن إحنا كلياتنا جزء من العملية النضالية، كل واحد أدواته مختلفة عن الأخرى، فعشان هيك ما حدش بيوقع ما حدش بياخذ المصاري.
What has changed in 2020 that the European and of course the US government money has a it's like an addendum. I don't know. It is like a rule that one of the rules is that when you receive money, that you have to condemn the liberation process of your own people. So, and it's betting as well. So I mean, all of the cultural scene, we refuse it, of course. How do you condemn your own people, your own selves? I mean, we all work towards the liberation of Palestine. It's not, we don't do art just for the sake of art. So how would we sign on our death upon the ending of our own work? So this is where we refuse, of course.
How can the international community support you from a distance without going through these channels that require some of the conditions that you're talking about? So if I'm just listening to this conversation or I find out about El-Funoun on Instagram, how can people support your work?
If not in الناس اللي برا.
عمليا يعني زي ما في شروط حد أوروبي كمان في كثير ناس مستعدين يدعموا الناس اللي عم بيقاطعوا يعني التمويل المشروعي، فإحنا من خلال يعني بيشتروا منتجاتنا، بدعونا نعرض، بتبرعوا لنا في أكثر من شيء، والأساس إحنا مش عم على الخارج، الفلسطيني نفسهم يعني أكثر دعم وتمويل فلسطيني، مش معتمدين على العالم الآخر.
Yeah, so most of our funding is Palestinian money. Private sector, people who believe in our work, and we're a volunteer-based organization. So there are 100 dancers who are volunteering as dancers. But Khaled was saying that there are different ways of supporting for the international community, and one is through some of them invite us to perform. Another way is supporting our programs. So when we're in the United States, there's also a funding program, so they can actually individually fund or support yearly donations to El-Funoun. We have a fiscal sponsor in the United States. If there's a link also on our website for anybody who believes and wants to support. We have merchandise that people can buy online, and we ship them. We have our music that they can listen to that's on Spotify and all of the places that you can actually listen. SoundCloud, I don't know them all. So yeah, there are several ways to support. And sometimes it's about writing an article and showing interest and really talking about the issue. Support comes in different ways. It's the governments that have this law.
As you said earlier, that the world is big. So if there are issues in the United States or anywhere else, you can always go somewhere else. I hope you come to Canada. I looked and I saw that you came to Ottawa in 2014. So people here are familiar with you. I hope you come to Toronto, to the Toronto community that's listening to this, to the dance creators, choreographers, directors, the dance makers in Toronto. There's a lot of Palestinian support here in our city. And I think many people, both Palestinian and non-Palestinian, would love to see El-Funoun perform here in Toronto. So hopefully that's a reality that can be brought. That's something that can be brought to reality within the next year. I think it would be fantastic. You mentioned music, so I'll wrap this up by talking about music. And there are two albums or two projects that I want to talk about. The first one is how I actually discovered El-Funoun a few years ago, is Zarif, which came out in 2006. And next year, Zarif will turn 20 years old. And I'm just curious in general. So, here in the West, we tend to think of music and dance as separate, right? You're a musician and you create music, and then choreographers take that music or use that music in their dance making. But one thing that I see with El-Funoun often is that music is so deeply connected with your dance expression. So how do projects start? Do you create the music first and then the choreography? Or do you have choreographers and musicians thinking and creating together?
هو لازم نروح على موضوع أول شيء الجانب المعرفي والبحثي، وبعدين يعني أي إنتاج فني بيسبقه أول شيء بحث، بعدين آآ تتبلور الفكرة، وبعد الفكرة ببلش البحث عن الموسيقى اللي تتناسب مع الفكرة هاي، ومن هون بالأساس يعني أكثر إنتاجات فرقة اعتمدت على المادة الفلكلورية، صح من توزيعها بتصير أكثر معاصرة، لكن 90% من إنتاج الفنون من 79 لليوم هو معتمد على المادة الفلكلورية. لو الفنون ما بحثت فيها وجابتها كان يا إما ماتت مع الناس اللي ماتوا، يا إما ما حدش سمع فيها. فعمليًا الفنون عشان لمّا بلشنا بمعدات الرقص نفس الشيء الموسيقى، لمّا نجيب المادة الفلكلورية لكن ونحطها في صورة معاصرة تتناسب مع مجتمعنا الفلسطيني والتطور الحالي، واللي كمان هي بتكون يعني كمان تحاكي العالمية في الإنتاج الموسيقي. بعدها بنبني العمل الراقص على الموسيقى، لكن البحث أول الفكرة، البحث ومن ثم الإنتاج الموسيقي ومن ثم الإنتاج الحركي.
So generally what we do, we always start with the research of what we want to talk about, what is recent now, what is needed now. And this research always comes also from the going into after what we want to say, what we want to do, and the theme, we go into the music. And this is going back to searching for the original songs that were recorded. And we have an archive here of 7 years that has the recordings of the original recordings from people for folk music and songs. So we do our research, we find the songs and the tunes, and we rearrange them. So first of all comes the idea, the research, the music, and then the rearranging of the music and choreography. And El-Funoun has done this since 1979, and this has created an archive and also CDs, music albums that you listen from Zarif to Zaf to Zagharib to all of that, and to Talla, and then this music, basically, without it, nobody would know what Palestinian music is, because it's only oral here, that traditions have passed from one person to the other. It has not been documented. So this is another kind of documentation that El-Funoun has created over the 45 years.
So you mentioned Zaf just now.
That
It's your next project. So I read that it's a story about life in a refugee camp. So will it be music and dance as well? And when do you think it will be coming out?
is that if the setting, the original setting is a refugee camp. We started it before the genocide and the war on Gaza, but now it's also the idea of the refugee camp has also, because things evolve. All of historic
Gaza.
Palestine is a refugee camp. All of the
Mm.
historic Palestine. So we're all in a transition, like we're threatened. So Zaf is set of songs and music that was created, and we're choreographing. It should be. We hope to have the opening in July, depending on the situation here, because we haven't performed in 2 years in Ramallah or in Palestine. So we hope that we can. It depends on the situation. If we can do it. If not, but we are creating it. And it's a music, and always there's music, dance, costumes. They're the if you look at El-Funoun's history, these three elements are the ones that are surviving, that are becoming part of this Palestinian history as well. And Zaf talks about the actual word. Zaf is it's when a bird wants to fly. Before it flies, it flaps its wings, and when it comes down, it's the same. So this is what that is. And of around 100 dancers on stage, ages 13, maybe 13 to 45, 46.
Mhm. Before my last few questions, I read that Noura, you've been with El-Funoun since 1987. Is that correct? So you like your entire life has been in this troupe.
Yes.
Incredible. And
Khaled was my teacher.
so Khaled,
Still my teacher.
when did you join Khaled, El-Funoun?
And there's literally
82.
So, wow. Incredible. All right. My last few questions are about 3 songs from Zarif, because there are 3 songs that I believe speak both to this moment, but also to your historical struggle. The first song is Dialogue. Do you remember the song Dialogue?
yes.
Why is dialogue with an occupying force impossible?
لأنه عمليا يعني كيف بدك تحاور حدا وهو ناقص خلاص.
How do you communicate wants to have a dialogue with somebody who's stepping on your neck? And
عمليا هون ما في حوار، في نوع من الاستسلام. تقديري كفلسطيني مش سهل نكون نستسلم بعد كل التضحيات قدام الشعب.
this is surrendering. And the Palestinian people, with all of what we sacrificed, surrendering is not an option.
The second
Sorry.
song, is titled Dignity. I'm sure you remember that song. Where is the dignity of a culture preserved when so much of its cultural infrastructure and leaders have been decimated?
عمليا يعني بغض الجواب عمليا الكرم هي بالاستمرار مش بالتوقف، بغض النظر عن فرد تحتاج قضية لمجموعة أفراد مش فرد. الفرد بروح بيجي غيره. تجربة القضية الفلسطينية من قبل الاحتلال من 36 من أيام الاحتلال البريطانيين حتى بتروح إنها الشعب موجود والأرض موجودة.
Yeah, a good word is steadfast. Continuing. We are a people that it's not about the individual, it's about the community, about the group of continuing. So with the oppression, many people have, the body goes, the spirit, the soul, the continuation. Like in someone, it just continues, it just keeps producing. So this is the dignity that we have. This is how we continue.
And then the last song is Don't Leave, which is my favorite song. It's a beautiful song. You might not like this question, but I have to ask it because some of the dialogue that we hear here in the West, for people who don't understand your struggle or have we just live a life that is never exposed to that kind of struggle. They won't say it publicly, but privately they'll say, why don't these people just leave? If they're being bombed constantly, if their family's being killed, we have space here in Toronto. We have space here in Canada. Come here. So my question is there any circumstance where you would leave, for example, the West Bank? For example, if there's danger to your family, to your dancers, et cetera, where does this desire to stay? Is this something that you can comment on or talk about, or is it kind of like a fish in water where you can't imagine the world without the West Bank, without Palestine, without Gaza?
تقدر تجاوب.
Sure.
يعني عاملين هو يعني بحكي فيه يعني أظني غزة عم بتجاوب عليه. تقديري هذا مش خيار عند الناس، يعني تقدير الناس مستعدة تموت هون ولا تغادر. موضوع إنه في يعني نوع من شو الخطر، هذا الشعور ما بيكون عند حدا يعني مالك الأرض أو حدا بيعتبر حاله جزء من يعني حقه بالبلد. تقدير كل الثورات يعني المركز كل العالم، ورغم التطهير العرقي اللي صار والمجازر، ما في حدا بيغادر بلده. أكيد في مجموعة من الناس، بس كشعوب ما سمعت لحد الآن في شعب غادر أرضه على دولة تانية. ما صارت في العالم. لكن في أفراد، أو ممكن تلاقي جزء من الناس المجتمعات بحب يترك، بس احتياطًا عن الناس يعني ارتباطنا في الأرض ارتباط حياة أو موت أكثر من إنه خير حالي أو على سلامة أولادي. الموضوع مش
I think Gaza has answered that question. What's happening? But staying or leaving, it's about life or death. And of course, some people do choose or can leave, but the reality of the situation, it's not a choice to leave. It's not like in Gaza or here, oh, you want to leave? Please go. Go where? Can we actually, the borders are controlled. You can't leave, even if you want to. But it's the same like in history, people who are oppressed, who have gone through ethnic cleansing and through genocide, you don't see a whole community disappear completely. People stay. It's not about, oh, okay, let's leave. And I would just add, if you ask people in Canada and Toronto to leave to Vancouver, would they do that? Exactly. So why would you ask for Palestinians to leave their land? If you were, there's a natural disaster and you can't go back to your home, you feel devastated. So you want to take a whole community out? Doesn't really work. For me, it's like you're asking a fish to be out of water. Why?